Neo humanoid robot can now teach itself new skills using AI-based models.
We're very excited about these world models where finally we see robotic scaling following the same scaling laws as, for example, video pre-training from the big video models like Sora or VO from our competitors.
But first, if you want to support this channel, head on over to patreon.com/DylanCurious. Also, we're coming up here soon on 30,000 subscribers, so if you're not already subscribed, hit that button. All right, first up, let's talk about the humanoid robot Neo. The company 1X Technology has introduced a major AI upgrade to its humanoid Neo robot, and its brains now have a world model in it. It is the 1X world model that it is running on, and it lets the robot learn new physical tasks by watching and understanding videos.
Our world model is pre-trained on web-scale video data that captures human interaction, and then post-trained on robot data to ground that understanding in real-world physics and Neo's humanoid embodiment.
So the system predicts future actions visually, then executes them through precise robotic movements, enabling Neo to generalize skills like opening doors, ironing clothes, and video are all from video learning. This new model lets Neo collect its own interaction data over time, creating a self-reinforcing loop that could accelerate the ability to learn continuously on itself. So yeah, for everyday people, that means we might see more humanoid robots helping around the home or workplace before you would ever imagine on like other timelines. Labor, caregiving, daily chores. I could see all of that stuff being, for the most part, revolutionized in the next 10 years. Cyphron points out that there's a simple strategy to win in the game of life. Just need this one tip from game theory: outsmart 99% of people. Of course, who doesn't want one simple tip to win at life? Let's go to game theory. It has a tip here, a simple strategy to outsmart 99% of people. A little bit of a clickbaity title here by Cyphron, but interesting article. Because this piece argues that what we call reality isn't a fixed objective world that we're trapped inside, but a kind of game shaped by consciousness itself. So if you draw from some ancient ideas like some of the Mayan thoughts about what life was about, modern cognitive science, and quantum physics, and group them all together, he suggests, comes to the conclusion, or puts the pieces together in a way that makes you really feel like our senses are not showing us the truth. They show us some sort of simplified interface that's designed for survival. This resonates with me. I feel like when I wake up, what I'm doing is seeing a world that was very much shaped by my ancestors, and we don't really experience reality. Like, we really don't. I mean, we do, but our senses since the beginning of time have been honed in a way where we're not seeing all of it fully. We can't. We'd be overwhelmed. Our brains just couldn't do it. We experience a filtered version that's assembled by the brain. And if you take that perspective, matter isn't, in this where I'm telling you what he's saying. Matter is not the fundamental foundation of existence. Consciousness is. Reality as we know it emerges from awareness, and observation plays an active role in shaping what becomes real. And the takeaway is that most people feel powerless because they identify with the avatar in the game rather than the awareness behind it. So just switch that thinking, and you don't have to be powerless anymore. You can now be powerful. Like, if reality is totally filtered out and shaped by perception, then changing how you think and imagine isn't just self-help. It's literally changing your whole existence, like your whole sense of self. Maybe even you could argue that emotion really dictates who you are. What you put your attention on truly is who you are. Your beliefs, your assumptions, your imagination, that's actually reshaping our true selves. Drop your thoughts in the comments on that one. I'd be curious what you think about that. Is it kind of extreme, but it's also kind of powerful, and I kind of vibe with it. All right, do it before I scare you, because the scariest alien scenarios that might actually be real is the next topic here. Adrian Adams put this together: plausible explanations for a silent universe. All right, so you got to admit, it's really weird that there's not any aliens out there. I mean, I know space is big, but it doesn't just feel intuitive to me to think we emerged by ourselves and this isn't happening anywhere else, right? Like, you see life in one part of Earth, you realize that it's pretty much everywhere. So why not past Earth? Why only on Earth? Nowhere else? No Dyson spheres out there, no messages, no nothing? Well, today we're going to talk about the truly frightening possibilities that are uncomfortably plausible, the kind of civilizations that don't need to invade, announce themselves, or even care we notice them at all. Now, as humans, we could clearly imagine how you would build a zoo for a monkey monkey and you'd put one-way glass all around it, and the monkeys might never know that there are people that close. I can't assume that we're so smart that even with the technology we have, that aliens couldn't be so much smarter that they've just countered all of those things. So the first plausible scenario is called the Silent Watchers. So this would be civilizations that are so old, they're so stable that interference is considered contamination. They monitor developing species the way ecologists monitor wildlife, from a distance and without sentiment. Radio signals are baby noises, nuclear weapons are stress behaviors, art, religion, and war are just data points. And they don't warn us about anything we're going to do because warnings would bias the results. They're just studying us. Another one could be the philosophical exterminator. These aren't aliens, they're worse. They're philosophical exterminators that operate on a moral framework so alien that it feels monstrous to us, but of course perfectly ethical to them. They simply believe that the universe is better off without any civilizations like ours continuing past a certain point, so there's no negotiation, because in their view, they're saving more lives than they're ending by ending our lives. They would argue it's for the greater good. I don't know, scary still. Number 3, the resource harvesters. There's no grand war, no dramatic invasion. Resource harvesters just treat planets the way we treat asteroids or forests, as resources of useful material. And when those harvesters arrive, it won't be in ships hovering over cities, it'll just be automated systems, self-replicating machines, and processes that we don't recognize, and they don't recognize our borders, ecosystems, or species. We won't be attacked, we'll just be processed out of existence. The digital ghosts, this one's probably what I thought was the most interesting. We're no longer talking about biological aliens. At some point, they upload themselves, partially or entirely, into durable distributed substrates. To me, this kind of makes more sense. I feel like if I just keep imagining the future, 100 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years, 20,000 years, millions of years, we just become biological, and then we become like upgraded to robots, and then we kind of Neuralink into some cyborg thing, and then eventually I can just make computronium and then run all these agents or consciousness on them. And maybe that kind of computronium or whatever that compute substrate looks like might be like quantum in nature or something undescribable right now. And then it is out there and all the aliens are just on it and we just don't see it yet. But yeah, back to the article, he says, if they encounter us, they might not communicate directly. Instead, they might just interact with our technology or observe our networks, seed subtle changes in our digital infrastructure. We wouldn't even know. And the last one, number 5, the evolutionary farmers. In this scenario, they don't want to invade us at all. They just want to cultivate us. These are long-term planners who treat intelligent life the way humans treat crops, livestock, or lab cultures, where something to be guided, stressed, pruned, and selectively advanced over time, basically optimized. So maybe instead of waiting, the aliens are around us, they're evolutionary farmers intervening just enough to steer our outcomes in the way that they want. They'd be focused, introduce stressors at key moments, removing populations that diverge too far from a desired path, and then nudging technological breakthroughs forward or delaying them to achieve their goal. Actually, you know what would be a cool thing to comment? Which one of these resonates the most with you? Do you like 1, the Silent Watcher, 2, the philosophical exterminators, 3, the resource harvesters, 4, the digital ghosts, or 5, the evolutionary farmers? Adrian Baradin has some thoughts about why time doesn't really flow. It's just that our brain makes us feel like it's flowing. All right, keeping it super abstract for this video, let's talk about why time doesn't really flow forward in any way, even though it feels like it does, or it might not. So in this piece, philosopher Adrian Baradin argues that the way that we talk and think about time as something that flows or passes comes from a human psychology more than it does from physics. So if you think about everyday language like, time flies or as time goes on, this implies that time moves forward like a river, but the idea collapses under scrutiny. Unlike water, time doesn't have motion or a location. Modern physics, especially Einstein's relativity, show that there's no single universal now that we can call the past, present, or future. That all depends on the observer's framework. If we're in a different frame of reference, we literally have past, present, and future differently. We sense it differently. And that shows up in a big way when we become far enough apart from one another. So the sense that time flows isn't something happening out there in the universe, but rather it's a feature of how our brains represent experience and organize events into narratives. So yeah, our minds basically project familiar structures onto an underlying reality that doesn't inherently include a dynamic passage of time at all. So it's not there. Time is not a fundamental feature of reality, but a construction of human cognition. So you're just imagining time. It's not a thing. Just stop imagining it, you know? Boom. Problem solved. All right, next let's talk about this clever hack. It's a way to give AI infinite memory. Corey Knowles wrote this, and we should talk about recursive language models. So you can think of a recursive language model like giving AI a library instead of trying to stuff an entire encyclopedia into its head. So normally AI can only, quote, remember a limited number of pages at once. Your context window, it starts to run out. It starts to kind of forget things that are too far away. So when the text gets too long and it starts forgetting things, RLMs solve this by letting AI walk through the library on its own, opening books, flipping to chapters, skimming pages, and zooming in only where the answers actually are. Okay, so you would think a RAG system kind of does something like that, right? Like retrieval augmented generation. So it's kind of thinking to itself, oh, I've got this database of facts. But this is a library that it's created and learned in the same way that it learned the other things. So it's more quick to the surface, but it still allows the LLM, or in this case, sorry, the RLM, the recursive language model, to break huge problems into smaller ones, asking itself questions along the way to sort of guide it down the, quote, hallways of this metaphorical library. And then it combines those answers into a final response. So the interesting thing here is that it's not about giving the AI a bigger brain. It's not more parameters. It's not more compute. It's about giving it better habits. You know what I mean? Like, just like humans don't memorize entire books, but we learn how to search, to skim, revisit information. It's navigational knowledge added on top of actual knowledge. So you don't have to hoard everything. You don't have to memorize everything, but you know how to now navigate. It's very human-like. And so far, it's showing that it can realistically handle massive problems. It's really interesting. Long contracts, years of emails, medical records, complex projects without getting confused and overwhelmed. So this could be one of those solutions to more long-term planning. It's just a lot of people don't seem to know about it. So yeah, keep your eye out for recursive language models. You can be in the know at your next AI party. Like, oh, you guys don't know about recursive language models? Yeah. They're a big thing right now. Surprised you haven't heard of them. Probably not keeping up with Dylan Curious. All right, next up, let's talk about some research that has a confusing name, but it really shouldn't be. Adversarial disentanglement by backpropagation, yada yada. It's easier to understand as just one brain that knows the real world physics and then another brain that has experiences and doesn't override the physics. Like we humans, we just know intuitively how gravity works. We don't just need to like keep reminding ourselves how it works or reimagining how it works or relabeling it. It's physics and it stays stable and we build around it. AI models don't really have that. That's what they're trying to do. So think of this research like teaching a student to solve a problem using both a textbook and real world experience. The textbook is the known physics of the world, the rules that we already trust. And the experience is the messy data from the real world that we're kind of learning and playing with. So the model they built learns to keep those two sources separate in its own mind. It's a mind with two parts. A built-in reference that constantly checks the experience side is not cheating, it's not rewriting, it's not changing what should be physics, the clean, understandable knowledge. But yeah, the thing that's kind of interesting about this and why it's a little more unique than you think, the AI data that it was trained on was about learning to respect boundaries. It's about taking all this stuff that's in your brain. We have these facts, and some of them are imaginary, some of them are fiction, some of them are nonfiction, some of them are fact. And we kind of know positionally, if you say something like an elephant, I like know that they actually exist. But you say a unicorn, I know it's a fictional thing. And it can be treated more whimsical. It doesn't have to actually like follow the rules of the planet. But I know if you're talking about an actual elephant, it will be. But I actually had to learn which one's fake and which one's real. So that's what they've taught it. That's not just emerging from knowledge like it is in ChatGPT or Gemini. That's an actual learned thing. So Yeah, just really pretty interesting work. And I think that's going to matter in the future because there's so many systems, bridges, power grids, weather forecasts, medical devices, all of those things that we really can't afford a creative answer that breaks reality. We still want an AI that's flexible but not reckless. All right, next paper here, we're going to just call it Seeing in the Dark Without Memory because I feel like that's the point of what's going on here. So think of this research like teaching a computer to see in the dark by memory. Like imagine hearing footprints upstairs, and then you imagine the person that's walking and making them. So they're actually working with satellite data, but that's just a little metaphor for you. So during the day, satellites can take these clear, visible light photos of Earth. But at night, they're basically blind and they have to rely on heat signals instead to figure out the shape of things, where people are moving. But of course, these two correlate. It's just day and night, but the same buildings and the same patterns to a large degree are underneath the darkness. So the researchers trained an AI on years of paired daytime images with those same nighttime images based on location and what the Earth looks like and what it felt like in infrared. So the system learned the relationship between the two. So now the AI can actually look at nighttime heat data and it can make an educated guess as to about what's going on if it was looking at it through a visible light image in the afternoon. Now that's pretty interesting to me. That's like how we work, right? Like if you're in the dark and you see like an outline, you kind of imagine the full person walking or the shape that you're kind of like seeing a hint of at night. So yeah, in this way, I would say the AI is learning to sort of imagine daytime when it's looking at nighttime photos and make these educated guesses about what visible images would look like. And that seems like a game changer. I mean, think about that. An AI that doesn't actually need light to understand what's happening in the light. It's just inferring what's there. Seems like a big deal to me. UFO whistleblowers claim Earth is a cosmic farm where aliens harvest human misery. Written by Kristnal Longino. This is From Out of Body Journeys to Republican Conspiracies. The idea of loosh energy has evolved into modern UFO myth. So the concept of human energy sources began with this guy, Robert Monroe. He's a pioneering research in out-of-body experiences. In his 1985 book, he describes a vision in which non-physical beings revealed that Earth is a kind of garden producing an energy he called loosh. This energy essentially is a form of universal love or emotion, vitality, and it was created naturally by living beings and used by higher entities to fuel growth and evolution. Okay, so like a little bit of a matrixy thing there. So now that you understand loosh energy, there's a recent article, UFO whistleblowers are circulating an unusual theory that Earth isn't just a planet, but it's actually a cosmic farm where higher beings feed off human emotional energy, especially fear, suffering, and misery. This idea traces back to the 1980s writings of Robert Monroe, and over time, the conspiracy community has sort of repackaged his more neutral concept into a darker narrative. Now, loosh is kind of closer to something that is suggesting that extraterrestrials or non-living entities are harvesting negative human emotion for their own beliefs. And then there's a bunch of figures on, YouTube, TikTok, some of those places that have been amplifying these claims alongside other fringe beliefs like reptilian overlords. And then today, some whistleblowers are linking this mythology to UFO sightings and alien encounters, claiming that these alien beings focus less on physical resources and more on human emotional states. Of course, there's no empirical evidence supporting these sensations, but folklore, speculation, and to be honest, it kind of feels right. It's also an example of how modern mythology is just evolving so fast on the internet. Imagine just prompting an LLM to like make a really factual document about loosh energy or whatever it's called. Yeah, loosh energy and why it's real and make it very scientific. And then I'll post it on my blog. Dude, so many people would buy that. Monkeys are on the loose in St. Louis. AI is complicating efforts to capture them. Actually, less strange than the last article, surprisingly. So, St. Louis, several vervet monkeys, medium-sized primates, not native to the area, were reported roaming around randomly in the city. So that prompted health and animal control officials to respond. It's not exactly clear how many monkeys there are, who owns them, how they got loose. But they do seem to be out there. But unfortunately, there's a bunch of AI generated photos of people saying they're seeing them. and they're fake. Now, the whole thing is not fake. There actually are monkeys that have been roaming, and some of the photos are real. It's just hard for people to know which ones are which. And of course, keeping non-human primates as pets is illegal in the city. So some residents are sharing sightings, others are getting confused by the AI-generated ones. And so far, it's been hard for animal control to verify real sightings and go find and capture the animals. So animal control is working with primate experts from the St. Louis Zoo to figure out which ones are real, which ones are fake, and urging people, if they do see the real ones, do not approach the monkey. Take a photo from a distance and report the sighting instead. Should I just add the monkey to the background behind me over there on the bed? That'd be crazy. All right, and have you ever wondered if 1 equaling 1 is the ultimate answer to the entire universe and why space-time exists? I never have until today, but Dan clearly wrote this: is the universe simply so that 1 can equal 1? It's got an interesting philosophical argument to it. The logic of the universe is 1 equals 1. This simple fact that's so clearly obvious that it's never even been considered anything but an immutable fact might just be the basis of all of the universe's rules. Imagine any world where 1 does not equal 1. Pure chaos. Just a jumbled mix of all patterns with no definitions, no nothing. How could anything evolve in it? How could life ever notice any patterns in it? The whole concept of a pattern wouldn't even exist. So he's arguing that you can think about the universe a little bit more like a rule-bound board game. The article argues that before anything else can exist, before stars, before atoms, time, any of that stuff, the most basic rule had to hold. 1 thing has to actually be itself. If 1 could randomly equal something else, the whole game collapses. No turns, no pieces, no board. So the universe in this view exists because reality must follow 1 core rule. 1 equals 1. 1 thing has to actually be itself. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of resonating. I'm kind of vibing with it. Things have to remain the way they are, okay? And I know it's like so obvious, like you wouldn't even think about it, but maybe that's why it's the place to start. It's the water that the fish don't know they're swimming in. All of the laws of physics are just the rule book making sure that the game doesn't fall apart. Gravity, time, and math act as guardrails. And then the piece goes on in an attempt to connect mathematics and physical reality to the claim that the universe isn't just described by math, but it exists to preserve the logical truth that 1 equals 1 means. And while mainstream physics typically treats fundamental constants and the universe's structure as contingent or emergent, Clearly's idea echoes a broader philosophical trend that reality could be a mathematical structure at its core. It's a notion similar to the mathematical universe hypothesis, which proposes that the universe is a mathematical object rather than merely described by math. I know, it's wild, but I haven't ruled it out. To be honest, it could be. It's weird that everything that feels physical could be math, but like maybe. This kind of thinking resonates because many people wonder why the laws of physics are so precise and why mathematics works so well in describing our universe, a topic that ties deep logic with everyday questions about existence and order in nature. If you enjoyed this video, hit the hype button. It is a YouTube button that shows up only on the mobile app if you swipe left on the comments. If the video was published in the last 7 days and you haven't already used your 3 hypes for the week. But if so, press the hype button. That would make a big difference. Leave a comment, share it, or whatever. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.